I left my country with a suitcase, a cheap phone, and one lie that almost got me killed. What happened next is the reason I don't use my real name anymore. I'm 36 years old. At the time this story starts, I was tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. Tired of checking my bank app and seeing numbers that looked like a joke. Tired of telling myself, next month will be better, knowing I was lying. I wasn't chasing luxury. I just wanted to breathe without money sitting on my chest like a brick. So when an opportunity came to go abroad and earn real money, I grabbed it with both hands. I won't say the country. I won't say the city. Not because I'm trying to be mysterious, but because some doors are better left closed forever. The plan was simple. Too simple. I'd go there, work hard, save up for a few months, and come back with enough money to reset my life. Pay off debts. Help my family. Maybe even feel proud of myself again. I told myself it wasn't risky. People do this all the time, right? That was lie number one. I didn't tell many people I was leaving. My mother knew, one close friend knew. Everyone else just thought I was figuring things out. The truth was, I didn't want opinions. I didn't want warnings. I wanted hope. And hope doesn't survive too many questions. The flight felt unreal. Airports always do. Everyone looks like they know where they're going, even when they don't. I remember sitting by the window, watching my country disappear under the clouds, thinking, this is it. This is the moment everything changes. I smiled like an idiot. I had no idea how close that smile was to becoming a memory. When I landed, the air felt different. Not better, just different. The language around me sounded sharp, fast, like people were arguing even when they were calm. I followed instructions, showed my passport, nodded when I didn't understand, and somehow made it through. The guy who picked me up wasn't the one I expected. Let's call him Alex. He was shorter than I imagined, with tired eyes and a smile that didn't quite reach them. He shook my hand too hard, like he needed to prove something. Long trip, he said. Yeah, I replied. That was our deep conversation. The drive from the airport took about an hour. I watched the city turn into industrial zones, warehouses, empty lots. The kind of places that don't show up on postcards. My stomach tightened, but I told myself not to be dramatic. Work isn't supposed to be pretty. The place I'd be staying wasn't an apartment. It was more like a box with walls. 4 other men lived there. Bunk beds, one tiny bathroom. A kitchen that smelled like old oil and burnt onions. Everyone looked exhausted, even when they were sitting still. They nodded at me. No one smiled. That should have been my first real warning. The next morning, work started early, too early, still dark outside. No contracts, no paperwork, just instructions. Move this, lift that. Don't ask questions. If someone spoke to you, you listened. If someone yelled, you worked faster. It didn't take long to understand the situation. I was working illegally, no permit, no protection, no backup. If something happened, I didn't exist. I remember standing there on day 3, hands shaking from fatigue, thinking, okay, this is bad, but it's temporary. That's the thing about bad situations. They rarely feel dangerous at first. They feel manageable, like something you can outlast. The pay was supposed to be weekly. It wasn't. Every time someone asked about money, the answer was always the same. Next week, said with a smile, said like a favor. Weeks passed. My body adapted before my mind did. Cuts on my hands became normal. Bruises didn't get reactions anymore. You stop noticing pain when everyone around you is hurting too. At night, we talked quietly, whispered really, about home, about how long we planned to stay, about the money we were owed. One guy, older than me, said something that stuck. They don't pay because they don't have to. That sentence sat with me like a stone. I started paying attention, not just to the work, but to the people in charge, the way they watched us, the way conversations stopped when we entered a room, the way phones came out when someone argued too much. Fear doesn't arrive all at once. It leaks in, slow, quiet. By the time you notice it, it's already everywhere. By the end of the first month, I realized I was trapped, not physically, mentally. I had no money. My passport wasn't with me anymore. They said it was for safety. I knew better, but I didn't say anything. I told myself I just needed to survive a little longer, get paid. Then I'd leave. That was lie number 2. Month 2 was worse. The work got heavier. Tempers got shorter. One guy disappeared. Just gone. No explanation. His bed was empty the next morning. When someone asked where he went, Alex shrugged. He left. No goodbye, no phone call, nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep. My brain kept replaying every stupid decision I'd made, every warning I ignored, every time I chose hope over common sense. I thought about leaving, just walking out. But where would I go? I didn't know the city. I didn't know the language. And I had no documents. If the police stopped me, I was done. So I stayed. Month 3 is when things broke. It started with an argument over money, a big one. Voices raised, accusations flying. I didn't even say much, but my presence was enough. I was seen as part of the problem. That night, Alex came to the room. His smile was gone. "You caused trouble," he said calmly. "I just want what I worked for," I replied. He looked at me for a long second. Too long. "You should be careful," he said. "Not everyone likes problems." That was the moment I knew I wasn't just unpaid. I was unsafe. After that, I noticed things I hadn't before. How often I was watched. How my phone signal dropped in certain areas. How people I didn't recognize knew my name. Fear turned into something sharper, urgent. I started planning, quietly, obsessively. I counted exits, timed shifts, memorized streets from the little I saw through dirty windows. I didn't trust anyone fully, but one guy, younger than me, whispered something one night. "If you leave," he said, "don't tell anyone. Just go." I didn't sleep after that. The decision to run doesn't feel heroic. It feels desperate, ugly, like chewing your own arm off to escape a trap. I knew if I stayed, something bad would happen. I just didn't know how bad. I picked a day when things felt calm. That's important. Chaos makes noise. Calm hides danger. I waited until early morning, still dark, everyone asleep. My heart was so loud I was sure it would wake someone up. I moved slow, grabbed the little I had, left everything else behind. At the door I paused, not because I was scared, because I was angry at myself, angry at how easy it was to end up here. Then I opened the door and stepped out. I didn't know it yet, but that was the moment everything truly went wrong. By the time the door closed behind me, the air felt heavier, like the city itself was holding its breath. I stood there for half a second, frozen, listening. No footsteps, no voices, just the low hum of distant traffic and my own heart trying to break out of my chest. I told myself one thing over and over: don't run yet. Running makes noise. Running makes you memorable. I walked, slow, casual, like I belonged there. Like I was just another worker stepping out for a smoke or an early shift. Every step felt fake, like I was acting in a bad movie, but I kept my pace even. I didn't look back. The streets were almost empty. Streetlights flickered like they were tired too. I had no map, no plan B, just a general direction I thought might lead to something. Anything. A bus station, a crowded place, somewhere I could disappear. After 10 minutes, my legs started shaking. Not from walking, from holding everything in. Fear, adrenaline, anger, relief, all fighting for space. Then I heard it. My name, not shouted, not whispered, just said. Calm. Behind me. I didn't turn around. I sped up, still walking, pretending I didn't hear it. My brain was screaming now. If they caught me here alone before daylight, no one would see anything. No one would ask questions. The footsteps behind me stopped. I turned a corner, and that's when I ran. I ran like a man who finally understood he had nothing left to lose. Down narrow streets, past closed shops, over broken sidewalks. I didn't care if I looked suspicious anymore. I just needed distance. My lungs burned, my throat tasted like metal. I ducked behind a dumpster and crouched there, hugging my knees, trying not to make a sound. I could hear voices now. 2 of them. Close. Too close. They weren't shouting. They weren't panicking. That scared me more than anything. People who panic make mistakes. Calm people hunt. I stayed there until my legs went numb. I don't know how long it was. Minutes felt like hours. When the voices faded, I forced myself to stand. Every muscle screamed in protest. I needed a crowd. Daylight started creeping in, turning the sky gray. With it came people, cars, life. I blended into it like a drop of water in the ocean. I kept my head down, copied how others walked, how they waited at crossings, how they looked bored instead of scared. I found a small cafe opening for the morning. I went inside and ordered something cheap I could pronounce. My hands shook so badly I spilled half of it. The woman behind the counter didn't even look at me. I've never been so grateful to be invisible. I sat there for an hour, pretending to scroll on my phone, watching reflections in the glass. Every man who walked by made my stomach drop. Every laugh sounded like a signal. I knew I couldn't stay in the city. Cities remember faces. Someone always knows someone. I needed to leave the country. That thought hit me like a punch. I had no passport, no documents, no money worth mentioning. I was illegal, broke, and scared. On paper, I didn't exist. In reality, I was being watched. I remembered something one of the guys had said weeks earlier, about a place near the border, about buses that didn't ask too many questions if you paid cash. It wasn't a plan. It was a rumor. But rumors were all I had. I left the cafe and headed for the bus station. The station was chaos, people everywhere, luggage, kids crying, vendors yelling. It was perfect. I felt safer there than I had in months. I joined lines without knowing where they went, listened for words I recognized, watched signs like they were written in code. I finally found it, a bus heading in the right direction. Not all the way, just closer. I paid. Cash. No ID asked. I almost laughed from relief. On the bus, I sat near the back, hood up, head down. Every stop felt like a test. Every new passenger felt like a threat. I kept imagining Alex stepping on, smiling that dead smile, sitting next to me like this was all a joke. He never came. The ride took hours. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My body refused. When we finally stopped, the town was small, quiet, the kind of place where strangers stand out. That's when I saw them again. Across the street, 2 men, watching the bus, not hiding, just waiting. My heart dropped to my feet. They weren't in a hurry. They didn't need to be. They knew I had limited options. I got off the bus and walked the opposite direction, then ducked into a grocery store. I moved through aisles pretending to shop, watching reflections in freezers, mirrors, anything that showed behind me. They didn't follow inside. That was worse. I knew then this wasn't about money anymore. This was about control, about sending a message. People who leave quietly make others brave. I slipped out the back exit and walked fast. The town edge came quicker than I expected. Fields, dirt roads, open space, no places to hide. I chose a road and followed it. By nightfall, my feet were destroyed. Blisters on blisters, hunger clawing at my stomach. I found an abandoned shed and collapsed inside. I didn't care about comfort. I cared about walls. That night, I dreamed of running but never moving, of shouting without sound. I woke up soaked in sweat, convinced someone was standing outside. No one was. The next day, I kept going. I avoided main roads, avoided people. I stole food once. I'm not proud of it, but hunger doesn't care about pride. Every sound made me flinch. Every engine made me hide. I started talking to myself just to hear a friendly voice, promising myself I'd make it, threatening myself if I didn't. On the third day, I reached the border area. I didn't know exactly where the line was. Borders aren't always fences. Sometimes they're just ideas. I found a path used by farmers, followed it until my legs felt like they'd snap. Then I saw it. A sign. Different language. Different rules. I crossed without ceremony. No music. No relief. Just exhaustion. I didn't stop walking for another hour. When I finally collapsed, it wasn't because I felt safe. It was because my body quit on me. I thought it was over. I was wrong. I woke up to rain hitting my face, cold and sharp, like the world was trying to make sure I stayed awake. My body felt broken. Every joint screamed when I moved. For a few seconds, I didn't know where I was. Then it all came back at once, like someone dumping ice water on my brain. I had crossed the border. That thought should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like standing on thin ice and hearing it crack. I pushed myself up and looked around. Trees, mud, a narrow road in the distance. No buildings, no people. Just gray sky and the sound of rain soaking everything I owned. My clothes were stiff with dirt and sweat. I smelled like fear and bad decisions. I checked my phone. Almost dead. No signal. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because if I didn't laugh, I might start screaming. I walked until I found a small village, smaller than the last one. Fewer people, fewer places to hide. I kept my head down and copied the rhythm of life there. Bought cheap bread with my last coins. Ate it standing behind a building like an animal afraid someone would steal it. I needed help, but help is dangerous when you don't know who to trust. I replayed every movie I'd ever seen about strangers and favors and bad endings. Still, I had no choice. I found a public phone booth. Yes, a real one. I stared at it for a long time before picking it up. Who do you call when your life is a mess in a foreign country? I called my mother. I didn't tell her everything. I couldn't. I just said I was in trouble, that I needed money, that I needed it fast. She didn't ask questions. Mothers know when questions can wait. While I waited, I slept wherever I could. Bus stops, abandoned buildings, once behind a closed church. Every night I woke up at the smallest sound, heart racing, sure someone was standing over me. Then something happened that erased any hope I had left. I saw Alex, not close, across the street, but it was him. Same walk, same posture, same dead smile. My blood went cold. This wasn't coincidence. Borders didn't matter to them. I wasn't running from a bad job anymore. I was running from people who didn't like losing. I ducked into a crowd and didn't stop moving for hours. My thoughts turned dark, paranoid. Every face looked like a threat. Every car slowed down felt intentional. That night, I didn't sleep at all. The money arrived the next day through someone I barely trusted. I used it immediately, bought a ticket, another bus, another direction. I didn't care where, as long as it wasn't there. On the bus, I finally broke. Silent tears, no drama, just exhaustion leaking out of my eyes. I wasn't brave. I wasn't strong. I was just tired of being scared. The next city was bigger, louder, safer, in a strange way. Too many people to track one man. I rented a room under a fake name, locked the door, sat on the floor with my back against it, and just breathed. For the first time in months, no one was watching me. Days passed, then weeks. I found under-the-table work again, but different this time. Smaller, safer. I kept my head low, saved every coin, trusted no one fully. I still looked over my shoulder. I still jumped at footsteps. Trauma doesn't leave quietly. Eventually, I made it home. Older, thinner, quieter. People ask me if it was worth it. I never answer right away. Because some lessons cost more than money, and some escapes change you forever. Coming home didn't feel like the movies. No slow-motion hugs. No relief washing over me. I stepped off the bus in my own country and felt like a guest in my own life. Everything looked the same, but I wasn't. I went to my mother's place first. She opened the door, saw my face, and didn't say a word. She just hugged me. Hard. Like she was afraid I might disappear again if she let go. That was when I finally cried for real. Not the quiet survival crying, the ugly kind. The kind that empties you out. For days, I barely spoke. I slept at random hours. Woke up from dreams where I was running and my legs wouldn't work. Every loud noise made my chest tighten. I checked locks 3 times, then 4. People think once you escape, the story ends. It doesn't. That's when the damage starts to show. I tried to explain what happened to a friend. Halfway through, I stopped. I could see it in his eyes. He thought I was exaggerating, or stupid, or both. So I laughed it off and said, "Yeah, crazy experience, huh?" That was easier than feeling judged. I had brought back almost no money, just enough to not feel completely empty-handed. The debts were still there. Life hadn't magically reset. In some ways, it was worse. I was back at 0, but now with fear as a souvenir. Then the messages started. At first, they were innocent. Unknown numbers, short texts. "How are you?" "Long time." I ignored them. Then one came that made my hands go cold. "We know you're home." I stared at that screen for a long time, waiting for it to change, hoping it was a joke. It wasn't. They never asked for money, never threatened directly. That's how I knew it was serious. Real threats don't need decoration. I changed my number, deleted accounts, shrunk my world down to work and home. I stopped posting online, stopped tagging locations. I became boring on purpose. And still, the fear stayed. I started replaying everything in my head. Where I went wrong, where I ignored my gut. The biggest mistake wasn't leaving. It was believing desperation makes you invisible. It doesn't. It makes you easy. Months passed. Slowly, the messages stopped. Or maybe they just moved on. I'll never know. But even now, when I see someone who looks like Alex, my body reacts before my brain does. People ask why I don't go abroad anymore. I tell them I've already seen what easy money costs. There are some things you only learn after they almost break you. Not from books, not from advice, from standing in the middle of a mess you created and realizing no one is coming to save you. After everything that happened, I sat down one night with a notebook and wrote rules. Real ones. Not motivational stuff. Survival rules. Rule 1. If someone rushes you, it's because they don't want you to think. Every limited offer, every last chance, every just trust me is a red flag wearing a smile. Rule 2. If a job doesn't want paperwork, it's not freedom. It's a trap. Real work wants records. Fake work wants silence. Rule 3. Never give up your documents, ever. Not for safety, not for processing. Once you lose them, you lose yourself. Rule 4. If everyone around you is scared, there's a reason. Fear spreads faster than truth. Rule 5. Desperation changes how you see danger. When you're broke and tired, bad ideas start looking like opportunities. I wish someone had sat me down and said these things before I left. Not in a dramatic way, just calmly. Like telling someone the stove is hot before they touch it. I'm not telling this story to scare you. I'm telling it because someone out there is where I was. Tired, broke, hopeful. One decision away from a nightmare they don't see yet. If that's you, pause. Breathe. Ask more questions than you're comfortable with. And if something feels off, walk away. No amount of money is worth sleeping with one eye open. I still wake up some nights thinking I hear footsteps. I still scan rooms without realizing it. But I'm here. I made it out. Not clean, not proud, but alive. And that's enough.